course, we are going to talk about the kettlebell snatch. Single arm movement, really focusing on the drive of our hips, finishing with our arms. Right? So this is a leg-driven movement, core stability. There'll probably be some mobility, potentially mobility issues involved for some of us as well. Now, when we talk about the kettlebell snatch, feet are going to be in our air squat position. You may find that depending on the size of your kettlebell, right, this is just a standard kettlebell, but we do have some competition bells as well. The little bit larger bells, I have a tendency to stand a little wider. If I'm just using a standard Russian bell, my feet will go in an air squat position. As far as handling the bell, right, we think about this is our whole handle. These two areas where it starts to curve, those are called the horns of the kettlebell. I have found that if I take the crux of my hand and I wedge it towards the front of the bell, it makes it a little bit easier on my wrist to get into a good position on the turnover, versus if I'm in the center, I have a tendency to let it clunk on my wrist a little bit more. But play with your hand position as well. That's typically where we'll start people. Much like a kettlebell swing, hips are going to go back, and that's what creates the momentum for this swing. You're going to find a moment in the swing, from this back swing, thumb is going to be facing down, we're going to open up. Now, if I think about my arm being on a clock, all right, now we're kind of thinking visually outside of our body. I get it. It can be a little difficult sometimes. As I swing up, I'm going to wait until my arm is about 8 o'clock before I begin to pull. If I go much higher, it's going to be the weight's now getting farther out in front of me, farther away from my center of mass. Gravity's also going to start taking over at that point. So when we find that moment of weightlessness, right between 7 and 8, we're then going to pull through the shoulder. So the shoulder is shrugging up before the elbow follows. So when we think about kind of this order of operations, we're going to go hips, shoulder, elbow. From there, I find the easiest way to think about it is a punch through the ceiling. My end position, I want to try and get that bicep to the ear. So again, we've got swing, shrug, elbow, punch through. Our end position, we're looking to have the wrist, the elbow, and the shoulder stacked. Bicep lined up with ear, rib cage tucked in. So we want to avoid that big arched back. At full speed, we're going to come up, stop at the top. So sometimes you'll see once we get to this top position, we don't really lock it out. We almost want to over-exaggerate a 1-second pause at the top. From here, we're technically going to do a half snatch, meaning from this locked out position, I'm going to bring the bell down to my chest. From here, I'm going to lean back as the weight comes out forward into that next swing. If we have done kettlebell snatches and we're fairly comfortable and competent, we can do a full snatch. So as the bell comes down, we're not going to let the elbow stop or rest at the chest. We're going to drop straight through into that next rep. So if we are comfortable with that, feel free to go ahead and string them together. If we don't have a ton of experience with the kettlebell snatch, just stick with the half snatch for now. Again, coming through that big full swing, resting at the chest, then dropping to the hip. Kettlebell snatch.